practice and anticipation for this first round series. The Pacers and Bucks, the first game of playoff weekend, and Pascal Siakam and the Pacers got off to a fantastic start. 24-point halftime lead. And how about Miles Turner? The step back three in the fourth quarter, the crowd going crazy. That pretty much sent the Bucks to the showers. One Milwaukee starter hit double figures. That, of course, was Giannis Antetokounmpo, as he had 36 points. Other players you see on that screen, A.J. Green, Trent Jr., Porter Jr., all reserves. We'll see if there are some changes, but you got to focus on the Pacers. And Miles Turner mentioned the two-way effort from Pascal Siakam. A lot of work on the defensive end, a lot of execution on the offensive end.
At the forefront of that, Miles Turner, 4 block shots, but he also had a very effective offensive game as well.
Well, he made the first three-point basket that the Pacers get because they're doing nice job here with Nembhard, and he stands, and then all of a sudden, Giannis, he couldn't get back to him. And then Miles started to close it up. As you heard with JJ, they had two starters that didn't score. A lot of it had to do with Turner, but I thought he was aggressive offensively. He talked about it with JJ as he was walking off the floor. He's got the most experience in this situation for this team. Now, Siakam has it overall, but for the people that have been here, he's gotten it. He's comfortable. And in the situation like this, you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Miles Turner showed that in fact was the case, and they showed it mostly on the defensive end. And that is huge because now you know that when you need to get a stop, you can possibly get it with Miles. But you also know if you need a bucket, and particularly a three-point bucket, you can get that with Turner as well.
Pacers dominant performance by Indiana, led by 24 at the half, by as many as 28 in the third quarter. And the Pacers have won game one on this Saturday afternoon. 117-98. And we've got plenty more. The Andy Moore postgame show.
Early on, at least, the Bucks were not making their shots. Early on, all Pacers, again, the crowd answered the call from Rick Carlisle and the players to be ready early. Ball movement, open shots, Aaron Nesmith for three. Again, this was probably a perfect start for the Pacers, with the exception of a few Giannis baskets. They did about everything they wanted to do.
Listen, he's arguably the best player in the game, so he's going to be effective and have an impact on the game, so there's no shame in that. But you couldn't ask for a better overall first half in terms of the way the Pacers approached this game.
Pacers were up by 8 headed to the second quarter, built that advantage to 24 at halftime. Andrew Nembhard to Miles Turner for the dunk, and then late second quarter again. When Andrew Nembhard is knocking down three-point shots, it just seems like it will open up everything else for this Indiana offense.
So listen, it's just the overall confidence that he was playing with. He was able to get that shot to go. That was a big shot, but prior to that, he had a number of plays where he just had physical drives to the paint and able to come away with points.
I said as we closed Pacers halftime, 24-point advantage, would like to see it get up to 30. It got to 28. Pascal Siakam early third quarter was very effective. Miles Turner had a stretch in the middle of the third quarter where he seemingly could not miss. But the Bucks started to come back into this game, and Bobby Portis was sort of crashing the glass. But again, active hands led to fast break opportunities.
The one thing you got to think about when you're facing this Bucks team, you can't expect them to go away no matter what the lead is. They were going to get back into the game in some shape, form, or fashion, but give the Pacers credit for being able to stick with it and respond to that run.
Not a great shooting night for Tyrese Haliburton, but that basket towards the end of the third quarter got the Pacers a 17-point halftime lead. And then again, in the fourth quarter, the Bucks trying to come back, but the mountain was too much to climb for Milwaukee. The Pacers were doing just enough offensively. And again, there's Miles Turner. That step back three, maybe one of the lasting images and the reaction of the game.
And listen, something very noteworthy as you look at the end of this game. Brook Lopez starts the second half. He checks out of the game about midway through the third quarter. We never see him again because the Pacers were doing a terrific job of putting him into action. Talk about the advantage that Miles Turner has when he faces these bigs who would like to stay in the paint. Anxious to see what happens in games two.
These post-game reactions now. Let's hear from Pacers head coach Rick Carlisle.
Rick, what were you pleased about execution-wise from your team today?
I thought the first half, our level of persistence was good, and it was consistent. Things stalled out some in the third quarter. I got to look at it. I haven't looked at any of the film yet. But the series is 1/7 over, and game two will be monumentally more difficult than this one.
Miles Turner, plays in that third quarter. How did that help you guys survive that Bucks stretch in the second half?
Well, around the rim, he's a big factor, and he got some big rebounds, and he had some important shots. And so, the important thing for us is when we attack, trying to find the right shots. We fell into a thing in the second half where we took some shots that were shots, but they weren't the best shots for us. And Milwaukee had a lot to do with it. So as you look at things from game to game, that'll certainly be one of the adjustments that we make.
That was my last question, but what else would you like to see some improvement in as it goes to game 2 on Tuesday?
A lot of things. I mean, Giannis got to the basket too much. We're trying to build walls. He's still getting there. And he's a great player, and great players cause, collateral problems. And so it's not a surprise, but, we got to look at that. We foul them a lot. We've got to cut down on fouls, and we'll see. I mean, the ebbs and flows of a series are so up and down. It's impossible to predict exactly what's going to happen from game to game.
That being said, obviously you go into this knowing Giannis is probably going to score. I imagine one of the biggest things you want to do is make sure he's not getting double-figure assists like he was. He only had one. Obviously, you were able to hold everybody else to better than manageable numbers. I mean, how did you like how you managed to make life at least a little bit difficult on him and make sure that nobody else was beating you?
Well, I mean, their shooters got going in the second half, and that's a concern. Now, some of those shots weren't necessarily coming off the first pass, but he had some hockey assists on those. So, we got to look at all that stuff. In an NBA game with great players, you can't take away everything, So we got to keep working on making it hard. And then, look, from game to game, there's no telling who's going to be available from a personnel standpoint. We got to be ready for Dame to come back, and a whole host of things.
Obviously, Ben Mathurin and Jarris Walker, basically Ben playing his first playoff minutes, Jarris playing kind of his first most really meaningful, playoff minutes. What did you like about this? The contributions you got, especially from both of them in the first half.
I think they both did a very solid job out there. Mathurin's offense in the first half was a big factor. He had drives. He was active around the basket and cuts. Jarris hit a big shot. It's great for those guys to jump right into the deep end. Against a seasoned veteran playoff team in Milwaukee. I mean, they got a lot of guys that played a lot of playoff games, and to feel what it's like. The second half was a little bit different for everybody. It just, they went more zone. They got it slowed down a little bit. And so the game's going to feel different. It's going to be different. And so we got to look at that. But overall, I was very happy for them. It was a great opportunity for them to get right into it. And some very good things happened.
Remember that.
Rick Carlisle talking about the Pacers' Game 1 win over the Bucks. The first week of this series will feel like a marathon. 3 games, Saturday, Tuesday, then not again until Friday. So the proper perspective, not to get too high after this one win, but it's better to go into this little break, this 2-day break, with a victory. I feel like I've seen this line score for Pascal Siakam a time or two this season. 10 for 15 from the field, 3 for 5 from distance. Take a look at our fancy new shot chart. Pascal Siakam had it all working today.
Yeah, just a tremendous job of picking his spots of when and where he should be aggressive in attacking the opponent. And again, to your point, the efficiency is something we've grown to know and love and expect from him. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be grateful and show gratitude, because not everyone is being able to play at this level in terms of his efficiency, regardless of the defender. Giannis Antetokounmpo, again, a guy who's been a defensive player of the year, been an MVP in this league. He takes him one-on-one there. But overall, being able to space the floor when necessary, looks the defense off, the clock is going down, knocks down the 3-ball there. But just being able to score in so many different ways is invaluable here for the Pacers.
And he also guarded Giannis for most of the game.
Well, that's the thing. You want him to be a two-way player. He's been able to take on difficult challenges throughout the season in terms of that forward position. He does a great job of challenging guys at a high level.
Hopefully he gets a visit to the cold tub whirlpool of some kind can rest up prior to Tuesday. Much more still to come. Fantastic Indiana effort defensively in this 117-98 victory over the Bucks. The Master Jewelers defensive gem. We've also seen this time or two in his 10-year Pacers career, a block from Miles Turner.
And it's a beautiful sequence here. I love to see him come clean that up. And Tyrese Haliburton, the maestro on the break, he's able to fake a pass and find Mathurin there in that weak side corner for the 3-ball. But what I like mostly about this particular play is the continuity that Turner has with his guards. Andrew Nembhard is there guarding. He's making that difficult play there on the offensive player. He's making it difficult on him. He's not fouling and committing a foul and understanding that Turner is there to protect him and block that shot and start the break.
Pat Boylan standing by with Tyrese Haliburton.
Jeremiah, thank you. Ty, let's start with the start. It was really emphatic, seemed like a lot of focus. What led to such effectiveness, the 24-point lead at halftime?
Yeah, I think it just came out with the right energy, played the right way. I think this is a team we're very familiar with. And, Pascal and Miles got it started. Drew got it started getting out and running. And, we just followed those guys. And I think that, really a lot of that first half, we just kept playing the right way, getting stops and running. And, that's where we're at our best. Take me through what you saw defensively. They scored 98 points. Giannis has a big number, but it seemed like you were able to keep everybody else from hurting you. Yeah. Giannis is going to get his. He's, he is who he is. So we did a great job of, keeping the other guys in check and finishing possessions with rebounds, and that's what's important right now. That's the biggest thing for us. Just keep playing the right way on both ends, and good things will happen. You had 12 assists. Obviously, we're setting up plenty of guys for good looks. But what's it say about this team that you can have a night as impressive like this when maybe your shot wasn't falling at the level you're used to? Yeah, I mean, we keep hammering away at our depth. We got a lot of different guys who can, chip in when needed. And, I just trying to, impact the game in different ways when my shot's not going. I thought our guys did a great job being ready to shoot, playing the right way, and then, in transition, getting me the ball and letting me find them. And, we felt like the guys were getting shot out of a cannon to get to the rim when I was kicking it up. So, obviously shots weren't falling for me tonight, but just trying to impact the game in different ways. And, P was unbelievable. I think guys just followed his lead. You guys lost game 1 in their building by 15 last year, responded emphatically in game 2. So you know what game 2 can mean. Obviously the series went the direction it did. So what's the key? What's the mindset necessary to try to replicate this on Tuesday? Yeah, just be ready, be prepared. I might switch the lineup. They might switch the matchups. You never know what you're going to see. So, although we won, there's still a lot we could improve on. So, we'll have a film session over the next couple of days, practice, see where we can get better, and be prepared coming to game 2. All right, that's Tyrese Haliburton. Back to you, JJ.
Thank you, Pat. Eddie, how about that point Tyrese made about guys getting shot out of a cannon on a fast break opportunity? They were able to beat the Bucks down the floor and get 22 fast break points.
And that's just it. Tyrese Haliburton, even though his assist numbers are so gaudy and he's been able to take care of the basketball, but he also trusts his teammates. So when he received that first outlet pass, along with TJ McConnell, they all do a great job of advancing it when they have a teammate ahead, trusting them to make the right decision, whether it's to go get on the rim or get into the paint and kick it out to a teammate. You see there with the advance of the pass, Pascal Siakam makes a tremendous decision there. And Pat touched on the assist numbers of Tyrese Haliburton. He's got 12, just 1 turnover. But as a team, once again, this team only turns the basketball over 5 times. So when you're able to play like that with the ball security and you're just giving yourself extra opportunities, you already shoot the basketball at a high clip, you're just increasing your odds for a great result.
Miles Turner, a big game, a great reaction after that final 3-pointer that he made. He is talking with reporters right now.
Hey, Miles, what do you think was the key to getting off to that big lead in the first half?
Momentum, carried. I think great through Gamebridge today. When you start the game off hitting shots and getting the crowd into the game, works well in your favor. So I think we did a good job of establishing the way we wanted to play early and then, defensively just flying around.
As you held them to 98, what did you like about what you guys did defensively today?
I think we just made them be decision makers. At the end of the day, it's not a one-man job guarding Giannis or some of their better players over there. It's a team effort. I got to give a lot of credit to Pascal Siakam. To carry the offensive load and also the defensive load like that. It's going to be daunting. It's tough going on all series, but we got his back.
Miles, you had 4 blocks today. You had the one in the third quarter on Giannis where the crowd just goes crazy. What do moments like that in a playoff game do for a team?
Momentum changers or momentum shifters at that. I think it's huge, especially when you're at home. You have to keep the crowd into the game. It's a big part of the playoffs, something I've learned just in my experience because, momentum plays a huge part in just, our style of play as well.
And then I saw Mathurin had 9 of his 13 in the second quarter. How do you think he handled his playoff debut and the boost that he gave you off the bench?
I loved it. I think he's a very poised individual. I told him before the game, my only real advice for you is just to lose yourself in the moment and don't have any expectations. When you start setting expectations for yourself, especially for your first playoff series, that can lead to disappointment. That doesn't even need to be there in the first place. So I think he did a good job staying poised, and he played a great second half.
Apologies if you got asked this one already, but imagine going into this, Giannis is probably going to get his points, but you're trying to obviously make life hard on him, but mostly make sure he's not getting a ton of assists by getting a lot of open threes for other guys. What did you guys like about kind of your complete defensive game plan, especially holding them to 2 of 16 from 3 in the first half?
I think it was decent. We definitely have areas to improve. I think we fouled way too much. I think we missed time, some of our doubles as well. So overall, I think it was to get our baseline. That's what game one's all about. Get your baseline, you make your adjustments, you improve from there. So I'm glad that we got a dose of where we're at right now. Then, we watch film, we have 2 days evaluating them, we make our adjustments from there.
So obviously you were able to hit, I think, 4 or 6 from 3. Just how important is that for you in this series to be able to get some clean looks and knock some of those down?
Yeah, floor spacing is very important in the playoffs. It just provides room for everybody to work and, just me shooting the ball with confidence is something I've done for a long time now. So I'll just continue to keep picking and choosing my spots, when to be aggressive and, mixing them in.
Miles, you've obviously been with this franchise for a long time now. You've been through a lot of playoff experience here. What does it mean to have this crowd behind you in the playoffs?
It's unbelievable, man. I think I was just talking to JJ about it. Just be able to hit the first shot. My first home series, opener series, whatever you want to call it, was really cool, man. It's some moments like this I don't take for granted. And my whole family's here. Everybody's watching back home, and I understand how the sport of Indiana. So, just to be the one that's seen the highs and the lows, and I think it's a beautiful thing to build. You know what I mean? I think a lot of guys can, get to organization, when they're hot or jump around. And I've seen this thing from the bottom, and it's a very special moment. But we still have a long way to go, man. It's just one game down, and 15 more.
Miles Turner, outstanding game. Same can be said for Andrew Nembhard. He also very much a two-way player, but the passing, playmaking, the shot making, he had it all going, especially in that first half.
Yeah, he was very good throughout this entire game. And as much as I love Ryan Hollins for the Bucks, I think he's going to be a very good young player. It's not the defensive task that Andrew Nembhard is grown accustomed to taking on. So he has some additional energy and additional strength to go in and attack on the offensive end. So there may be something to be said about that as well.
And as Quinn noted during the broadcast, Andrew Nembhard lives for these moments. He loves the big games, the big shots, and that atmosphere as well. We are not finished. More still to come on the Andy Moore Automotive.
We know what to do. I'm not trying to cut you off, but we know what is good offense on our team, and we know what's not, and we didn't do it today. And that's on us. That's on me. That's on everybody.
I guess, around that, Kyle scoreless, Torian scoreless.
Yeah,
one shot.
It's hard to score when you don't touch the ball. No offense. Kyle got 2 shots in the first half, both with 2 seconds on the shot clock. So, Kuzma can play, but we got to involve him, and we got to make sure we keep him involved.
So I guess, is that? It would appear like that's an off day adjustment, because clearly you went to a different unit to end the game. The bench group. So I guess what were you seeing in game that you felt that was the
we finished
play?
A lot with lately. The Bobby. So we didn't do anything different. But that's a lineup that has created offense for us. But I really thought the second unit came on the floor, the entire second unit, and I thought that's what got us moving the ball again. And then the starters came back in and they saw how we were playing and they joined in. So there's some really good things to take from this game. There's some things that we have to make adjustments to. And then there's just things we just can't do that we know better. And so it's probably all 3 buckets for us.
Was that just too many consecutive minutes? Like KPJ, I think, came in just under 8 in the third, finished. AJ just under 6 in the third, finished. But was that too long of a stretch, though, for that group to go a quarter and a half effectively, though?
I don't know. You look at their plus minus, it's pretty good. You look at the starters plus minus. So, it's one game, and we've had a week off. So, no, I don't. I think sometimes you stick with your group.
Time now for the Menards big money shot of the game. The Pacers, again, playing some defense, leading to offense, and Obi Toppin, part of that second unit that did their job tonight.
Yeah, and again, one of Turner's 4 block shots there, and talked about advancing the basketball. Mathurin very easily could have pounded the air out of the basketball and tried to get all the way to the rim. He does a great job of advancing it. You know what Toppin's going to do when he has clear sight on that rim. He's able to finish an easy 2.
It's Pat Boylan with Andrew Nembhard.
Jeremiah, thank you. Take me through the start of this game just from a team perspective. It seemed like there was so much focus and you were able to kind of harness the energy in the building and use it productively.
Yeah, there's a lot of energy in the building. I think it gave us all that boost, and it's always fun to play in the playoffs. So I think we're all super excited to play our first game back, you know.
You seem to be really aggressive, especially attacking the rim in the first half. I know that's a general thing you're trying to do, but why do you feel like you had as much success as you did today in it?
I think sometimes you just got to let it come to you, and the opportunities opened up the way the floor was moving out in transition. But, yeah, I think I was just trying to let it come to me.
You had a great playoffs last year, great start here this year. Is there something that you are finding within yourself here when the stage gets bigger, the lights get brighter?
I feel like ever since I was a young kid, I've always loved to play in big games like this, you know. My pops used to coach me. We used to play like Little League, and we always used to go to the championship, like couldn't sleep the night before. So I like playing winning hoops in fun environments like this, for sure.
As this series has the look that it might start to get kind of feisty like it did last year, I thought you guys did a great job of going up to the line but not crossing over it last year. What's the key to being aggressive but not taking it a step too far?
Aggressive in terms of fighting them?
Not necessarily fighting them, but just not backing down, but at the same time not letting that turn into technicals or flagrants or anything.
Yeah, I think we can't let it distract us from the main goal of what we need to do on the basketball court, and which has to do with basketball concepts, you know. All of that is cool and all, but this is a basketball game. We're not going to fight out there.
You know how impactful winning Game 2 was last year after that difficult Game 1, and they're going to try to do the same thing on Tuesday. How do you replicate what you were able to do today and to Tuesday's Game 2?
Got to go back to the film. I'm sure there's a bunch of things we could have gotten better at. I think also some guys, you know, first game back in the playoffs, there's a lot of emotions into it. I think that will settle down and allow us to be a little more comfortable. So we got to look at that as a team and see where we're going to get better.
He had 17 points today. Big first half for Andrew Nembhard. JJ.
My man Eddie likes to cover the dome in the wintertime. Was that your sock hat?
Man, I wish I had that type of swag.
All right, let's take a look at the day in FanDuel activities. Miles Turner mentioned this was quite a moment. The first basket of the game got the crowd on its feet. Odds were plus 750 for Miles Turner to score the first points of this game. Our 3-player props that we showed you, we were close today. This is the one that did not hit. Aaron Nesmith made an impact, but wasn't asked to score as much because his teammates were doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yeah, and he has been able to score at a high level up until this point, but to your point, just not as much opportunity. Still shot the ball pretty well, 3 for 7 from the field.
So that one did not hit. Miles Turner did hit the 3 3-pointers that we showed you, made 4, including the last one, which was so sweet. Shot clock winding down. It was during a stretch where the Pacers had struggled a little bit offensively. They hit that 3, and that pretty much put the Bucks away.
Yeah, listen, he was directly responsible for the absence of Brook Lopez in the second half. I touched on it a little bit. So, again, game within the game, the chess match between the two coaches. Anxious to see what Game 2 brings us.
Well, I think we might see more of Kevin Porter Jr. This was a big topic this week in discussing this series, as he could be an X-Factor type of player. Really, to me, felt like he maybe even scored more than 12 points. Definitely got a lot of playing time, and he brings something that the Bucks don't have. Other games today. So second game of the playoffs in progress. The home team, the Denver Nuggets, trailing 47-34 in the second quarter. We'll be watching Knicks Pistons tonight. Speaking of chippiness, I'm guessing what you saw in the last 2 or 3 minutes of this one, that might be times 10 from the opening tip, especially with guys like Isaiah Stewart involved. So let's end this show with that thought on what you saw towards the end of that game, maybe taking off the comments from Andrew Nembhard. These guys do not like each other. That's pretty clear. We might see a little bit more of this on Tuesday night.
Well, it's normal behavior for the playoffs, first and foremost. But secondly, we touched on this as well. These two teams have seen each other quite a bit in the last 2 seasons when you think about what happened in the last season in the in-season tournament and such. So they get a little bit more and more agitated with each other when you see each other, but also understanding in this platform, you know what's at stake. The first to 4 will advance and the other team will plan their vacation. So their sense of urgency and the contentiousness will certainly grow.
Pacers with a 10-6 record in those games. In their franchise history, the Pacers now are 15-6 in a series when they win game one. That is a good sign. Also nice to see a 5-series losing streak snap. They had lost 5 straight game ones. Now they lost game one to the Bucks and the Knicks last year's playoffs and rallied to win. Their goal is to win game one and get 3 more in this series. Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy your Easter weekend, and we will see you Tuesday night, 6:30 for Pacers